Hi, I'm Marcus, and I'm a product coach. Here's a question to you. Why do some product transformations succeed and others don't? It's something that I've been thinking about a lot, and I even wrote a book about it. And for the past 10 years, I've been helping companies move to the product operating model. And in this video, I'll walk you through the key concepts for my book and show you how to avoid the most common traps. So let's get started. First, let's describe in a few words what the product model actually means. The core concept of the product model is to unleash untapped brain power in a company. Instead of having a few brains come up with ideas, you empower teams to be in the driver's seat. They get closer to customers, understand their needs, generate ideas, test, experiment, and innovate. And what does this lead to? But I've seen time and time again when companies successfully make the shift to the product model. Increased innovation, happier teams, faster time to money, better business results. Sounds almost too good to be true. Okay, but what does this actually mean in practice? It changes how leaders lead, and it changes how teams work. So let's take a closer look at what this shift really means for both sides of the equation. So let's start by talking about leaders and how they lead differently. In the product model, their role has basically three main focus areas. First, they lead with context, not control. Instead of handing off requirements, they give problems to solve, typically in the form of objectives. And second, they help teams build competence in solving the right problems. They do this through coaching and mentoring. And third, they ensure teams are staffed with the right talent to tackle the specific problems at hand. And now let's switch to teams. Instead of being handed features in the backlog, teams are in the driver's seat. They're empowered to come up with the best solutions, but more importantly, they're accountable for achieving outcomes. They take ownership and pride in their product, and they do this by tackling product risks through discovery. And that means experimenting, learning, and understanding what could go wrong before any scalable code is written. And they collaborate. Product managers, designers, and engineers working as one team, building on each other's strengths. And I've seen firsthand how powerful this shift can be. Energized teams, leaders providing clear strategic context and guidance, results that keep building on themselves. But I've also seen the opposite. Transformations that never reach their full potential, held back by politics, misalignment, elephants in the room, bickering and indecision. So, let's go to the main event. The traps when moving to the product operating model. And most importantly, what you can do to avoid them. Let's start with the first one. All right, let's start with the first anti-pattern. Giving too much autonomy too soon. Picture this. A team says, yeah, we're empowered. We can do whatever we want. They're excited, but also confused. They don't really understand what this is all about. Sure, empowerment is a core idea in the product model. But what do you think happens when teams work in isolation, disconnected from the bigger picture? Here's a likely scenario. Let's roll the tape. A leader says, let's give teams the freedom to innovate. Patience is a virtue, right? Are we there yet? Any updates? Getting anxious. Can they actually do this? Houston, we have a problem. No results. Abort mission. Back to micromanaging. Oh crap, micromanagement stifles innovation. And I call this the loop of transformation failure. And the root cause? Leaders who step too far away from the teams who haven't been transparent about their progress, and the result? Transformation fail. So how do you avoid this mess? Let me give you one concrete concept to think about. Before you empower teams and give them autonomy, ask yourself, do they have the clarity on the direction of the product, where you're heading? And do they have the competence, the skills they need to solve the problem at hand? These are the pillars of autonomy. If the answer is no, stay close. Coach, train, guide, and then gradually let go. Now, let's turn to the second anti-pattern about the trap of focusing on parts rather than the whole. Product is just a black box. Ever heard that before? It usually surfaces a few months into the transformation. Product and tech have gone off to change how they work, leaving everyone else in the dark. And what happens? Communication breaks down, frustration builds, and all kinds of bad stuff. It's a common trap. You hear product operating model and focus only on the product part of the equation, not the whole system. You drive the transformation from inside the bubble. But here's the thing, product doesn't live in a vacuum. It's the heart of the business. It's where everything connects. It's how you drive revenue, support operations, and deliver value across the board. And if you just focus on the product part of the equation, silos grow, alignment breaks, and the transformation will likely fail as a result. And how do you avoid this trap? By avoiding centricity, by being inclusive, transparent, bringing stakeholders outside of product and tech along for the ride. Show them the benefits, what they'll gain, but also what might feel unfamiliar or uncomfortable. Make the transformation something they're part of, not something happening behind closed doors. Yes, it will be harder, and yes, it will be more complex, but it will give your transformation a far greater chance of success. All right, now on to anti-pattern number 3, not balancing innovation, business as usual, and keeping the lights on work. Now we finally have time to innovate, a team says, full of excitement. You kicked off the transformation. You've encouraged teams to dream big, experiment, explore bold new solutions. But pretty quickly, reality kicks in. You hear the sad trombone, system upgrades, support tickets, fires to put out. One by one, they pile up. And suddenly, your brand new product teams are buried in inertia and no space to explore, no opportunity to innovate. And what happens? You get all excited, but then reality hits. And why did this happen? The simple answer, the teams weren't set up for success. They didn't have the space or the support to do the work you were hoping for. And what happens? The transformation loses steam. So what can you do? Here's one thing to try. Surface all the work happening in product and tech before you embark on a transformation. And it usually falls into 3 buckets. New value, solving new problems. Existing value, improving what you already have. Protect value, keeping the platform stable, secure, and compliant. And to lead the way and prove that the product model works, give one or a few teams the space to focus on new value. Let them innovate, let them explore, and let them show that this new way of working can create value. Dependencies. Does that word make you shiver? You're not alone. Dependencies can make or break a transformation. Let's talk about them. Imagine this. There's excitement. You've just tested a prototype with customers. It's valuable. It's solving a real problem. You're ready to start development. And then you hit the oh crap moment. There are a ton of dependencies. You need something from another team, but they're busy or they have completely different priorities. You look at each other in the team and you say, oh crap. The more oh crap moments a team faces, the slower they move. Waiting, context switching, reprioritizing, it drains momentum. And it's not just frustrating, it can put the entire transformation at risk. So what can you do? To tackle dependencies, you first need to see them, make them visible. Start by creating a simple dependency map. Map the teams that slow you down or block your progress, and use smiley faces. Happy smiley, unhappy smiley. And then tackle the gnarliest ones first. Talk to the other team. Create a plan together. Then tackle another, and then another. And before you know it, a few months in, you've sped up development and you're becoming a case study for the transformation. This is a big one. If the CPO and CTO don't have a true partnership, things will go sour. fast. Let's explore. Here's a scenario. On the surface, everything looks fine. The kickoff decks are polished, the town hall went well, everyone's nodding along. But peel back the layers, there's tension. Product and tech are quietly pulling in different directions. All right, here's what I've seen. When the CTO and CPO are aligned, transformations thrive. And when they're not, things start to crack fast. These two roles are the twin engines of your transformation. If leaders have different motivations or different definitions of success, that misalignment will trickle down. You'll see confused teams, mixed signals, and a slow rate of change. And how do you avoid this awkward misalignment? Here's one thing to try. Form a change leadership team. Have the CPO and CTO share real ownership of the transformation. Let them drive the change together, not from separate silos. But don't stop there. Bring in voices from the business as well. This group, the change leadership team, is a small cross-functional team that governs and owns the change together. And their mission? To make sure the transformation stays on track and delivers real value for everyone. And more on that in a bit. But first, let's talk about another uncomfortable trap. Now, let's talk about another big one. Losing momentum. The transformation starts strong and then just breaks down. Here's the scene. You've pressed the button. You kick things off. The energy is high. People are nodding. Leaders are smiling. There's buzz in the hallways. This time it's going to be different, someone says. Believers are fired up. They read the books. They shared the links in Slack. They're in. But doubters, they're quiet, watching, waiting. Weeks go by, months go by, and then nothing. No results, no visible progress, no real change. The doubters start talking. Behind closed doors, confidence fades. And just like that, the transformation stalls. So what can you do? Empathize with the doubters. Understand where they're coming from and what they're worried about. Identify the big skeptics in your sphere of influence and then go talk to them. Have a coffee, grab lunch, listen. You might discover their concerns are completely legitimate and that you missed important pieces of the puzzle. And address those concerns head on, build the relationship. But you know what's the most powerful way to bring them over to your side? Results. Clear, visible examples of teams creating real value. And later on, we'll explore how you can do just that by building a systematic approach with pilot teams. Stay tuned. But now, let's talk about design with a capital D. You know this. Design isn't just the look and feel. It's a way of thinking, a way of solving problems. But unfortunately, many transformations forget this part. And what happens? Let's explore. You kick off the transformation, you're investing in product managers, you're hiring engineers, but where's design? The designers are brought in late, or if at all, and still asked to make things pretty after key decisions have already been made. And what's missing? A seat at the table. When designers don't have a voice early, you lose more than visual polish. You lose perspective. You end up with products that technically work, but aren't delightful. And without design, you won't unlock the full benefits of the product model. And how to avoid? The simple answer. Give design a seat at the table. Hire a strong design leader. Staff every team with a real trio: product, tech, and design, and involve them from day one. And bring in a design leader who can scale the craft, grow the team, and shape the culture of design. Because design isn't optional in the product model, it's essential. This is a very common trap. Going all in, all at once. You want to see results tomorrow. And that urgency causes all kinds of problems. It's go time. The team's meeting is packed. The slides are slick. The executive is smiling. This, they say, is a game changer. Next Monday, everyone will start working in Empower product teams, all at once, across the entire company. You log off and think, wait, what just happened? Come Monday, teams are scrambling. They're confused, and they have the right to be. Doubt and stress start to creep in. You've launched a transformation, but no one really knows what's different. This is what happens when you go all in too fast. The shift sounds bold, but without structure and support, it leads to chaos. So what can you do? Just like in product development, treat the transformation like a product. Experiment your way forward. Test, learn, iterate. Start small. Launch a few pilot teams and support them with coaching and onboarding. Give them clear problems to solve and space to learn. And then share what worked, the results, the metrics that moved, the insights gained, and the lessons learned along the way. Because without those early results, the whole change risks slipping back into the old ways. And nothing converts doubters faster than results. That's the momentum flywheel. And just like that, the change starts to spread. All right, we're close to the finish line. Here's number 9. You care way too much about the what, the plan, the steps, the playbook, and you forget about the big why. Why are you transforming? Why should people care? Let's dive in. The room is packed. The panelists are introduced. The mic gets passed around. And now it's time for questions. A hand goes up. It's a doubter. You know the type. This sounds interesting, they say, but why are we doing this? What does this change actually mean for my team? And then silence. A long pause. A scramble for the right words. People glance at each other and they're confused. The room is lost. So what can we learn from this story? Without a clear purpose, an answer to the question, why should I care? You'll have an impossible time winning doubters over to your side. Why now? Why this model? Why will it help us serve customers better? Why will it help us win in the future? And if your leaders can't answer those questions confidently and consistently, it's only a matter of time before the cracks start to show. Let's tackle this trap using a very simple framework. One that brings the why back into focus. First, start with now, your current state. What problems are you trying to solve in your organization, in your way of working? And next, craft a clear vision. Paint a picture of what will be different in a few years. What will be better? And then define your why, the purpose behind the change. Why does this transformation matter? From there, set a few objectives to track whether you're moving in the right direction or not. And finally, launch a few change initiatives. Start with pilot teams. Test new ways of working. Take action to address the real problems that you're facing and iterate toward your vision in a few years. That's how you treat transformation like a product, not a project. All right, the final one. All talk, no action. Big promises, bold statements, inspiring slides. But when it comes to real change, nothing happens. There's a big elephant in the room. Everyone feels it. No one says it. The executive team nods. They quote the right books. They say all the right things. we're too slow, or we don't talk to each other, or we need to change how we work. But behind the scenes, there's a quiet, let's wait and see mindset. No one is actually changing how they operate. And the unspoken belief, this is just an IT thing. Let them figure it out. We'll carry on. So why the hesitation? Because you're moving into uncharted territory. And beneath the surface, there are fears, doubts, and quiet concerns. Will I lose power? Will I still be seen as an expert? What does this mean for me? That's the elephant in the room. And soon, the symptoms start to pile up. Projects get labeled as strategies, and team topology changes get postponed into the future. Critical roles like designers and data scientists are deprioritized, and the elephants stay in the room. Then transformation stalls before it even begins. Because here's the truth. If leaders don't change, no one else will. Let's avoid this trap, shall we? Here's one thing to try. In the previous anti-patterns, we talked about treating a transformation like a product, not a project, and aligning on why you're changing and the outcomes you're aiming for. That's a great start. But to make it stick, you need to go deeper. You need to challenge the core of leadership itself. Because the product model means that leaders move from the playing field to the sidelines. They're going to coach. And for those used to leading through control rather than context, this is a massive shift. It takes unlearning and learning of new skills and acquiring new habits. And that's why one of the best places to start to tackle this anti-pattern is with leadership principles. Principles on how you're going to lead differently in the future. Bring people together and co-create them. Write down how you'll lead differently in the future and starting now. And here are a few examples. Coaching over telling, or outcomes over projects, or innovation over predictability. These principles become your North Star, especially when pressure hits. And once you've written your principles down, share them. Make them a pledge. A visible commitment across the entire company, and state clearly, this is how we're going to lead differently from now on. Because when leaders walk the walk, not just talk the talk, the rest of the organization will follow. So there you have them. 10 anti-patterns to avoid when moving to the product model. And I hope they've given you some inspiration. A few traps to watch out for as you begin your product transformation. And to recap, the journey starts with clarity. What are the fundamental problems you're trying to solve with this transformation? And what will be different? And why should anyone care? Share the story. Win hearts and minds. And when you're ready to begin, resist the urge to scale too fast. Start small. Launch pilot teams that are truly set up for success. And make sure they have the right mix of skills and surround them with coaching and training and support. And follow their journey. Share their stories. Let the results speak for themselves. Show, don't tell. And that's how you convert doubters into believers. And now, it's your turn. You're the one who will drive this change. Don't just talk the talk, walk the walk. So the question to you, what will your first step be? And if you want to dig deeper and get way more examples and recommendations, you can download the ebook by subscribing to my newsletter. Use this QR code to subscribe, and you'll find stories, tools, and ideas on how to avoid the traps that we just talked about and make change stick. That's it, party people. Thank you for watching, and best of luck in your change journey towards the product model. And I'm here as a coach, cheering for you from the sidelines. See you soon.